Today's voiceover talent is more than just a pretty voice.
Pretty voice.
Pretty voice.
Today's voiceover talent has to be a boss.
A boss.
Join us each week for business owner strategies and success with your hosts Ann Ganguzza and Gabrielle Nistico, along with some of the strongest voices in our industry.
Rock your business.
Rock your business.
Rock your business.
Like a boss.
Like a boss.
Rock your business like a boss.
Rock your business like a boss. A VO boss.
A VO boss.
A VO boss.
Hey everybody, welcome to the VO Boss podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguzza, along with my bestie, Gabby Nistico. Hey Gabby.
Hello.
So Gabby, John Florian from VoiceOverXtra reached out to me the other day.
I love John.
Isn't he the best?
Oh my God. I've known John for so many years.
I know, me too.
He's such a cutie and he's such a sweetheart. And yeah, for those of you who don't know, so he runs VoiceOverXtra, which is like this really great resource, news hub, networking website for all things voiceover.
Yes, you must go see VoiceOverXtra if you have not. And
yeah.
read. I wonder how many articles he has by now, because he's been in business for a very long time. So it's a really cool timeline of voiceover.
Everyone who's ever been anyone in voiceover has at some point had like a featured article or done work with him. Like I know you've been a contributor. I've been a contributor. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, he wanted me to take a look at this very interesting article, and I think it is a great opportunity to talk about something that I think is, something that in our businesses women should be thinking about. And it is an article written by Lynn Darlington, and and it talks about female voiceover talent self-inflict their wage gap, a client's perspective.
Yeah. So we're going to try not to alienate our male listeners with this episode, but it is important. And John did reach out to us and ask us to kind of broach the topic and see if we couldn't prompt you guys to get involved in the conversation as well.
So the very first topic here that Lynn talks about is that females asked for less money. Right there is a powerful statement.
Yeah.
So that there was a discrepancy along gender lines regarding the price quotes that she received. So it led me to think about, gosh, are there people out there undermining, women specifically, undermining their worth by asking for less?
This is definitely something you and I have tackled head on. It's the same pattern, right? Women, more so than men, seem to have a problem asking for money, talking about money, addressing money, and for that matter, knowing their worth and knowing the value that goes along with what they do. Women tend to minimize.
Well, the whole money block theory, women were raised to think that they were the homemakers. They stay at home, take care of the kids, and the male was the breadwinner of the family. And so that tradition, I believe, influenced me when I was growing up, because my mother, that's what she did. She stayed home and she took care of the kids, and he was out there making money. And I was always kind of raised with that idea that my mom couldn't make more money than my dad because it would make him feel less manly, so to speak. Sure. It would undermine him or create sort of a security issue. Yeah. Or insecurity, yeah. It's weird. Now I'm showing my age, but I remember thinking when I got married, okay, so if I make this much money in my job, right, is it going to insult my husband if I make more? Or should I just not say anything? Or what if, and I had all of these questions going through my head. This, of course, was before I started to become my own entrepreneur. And how I like to say that I've advanced my mental worth over the years and said, hey, wait a minute, I am worth this. And it doesn't matter if I'm female, male, alien, whatever. I deserve a certain amount of money for my work.
See, I'm with you on that part. The other stuff, the family component, yeah, that not so much. Like in my case, I mean, I was born and raised with a sense of New York hustle that has never gone away. And I mean, from as early an age as I can remember, it was always, well, how are you going to make some money off of that? You could sell that. Why don't you go out to the curb and see if the neighbors will buy it? And so it didn't matter what it was.
I love that.
So yeah, my entrepreneurialism started when I was 5. I mean, I was always trying to figure out how to make cash. I wonder if I wasn't prompted to do that and my folks hadn't sort of positioned me for that, what would have happened when I finally went into business for myself? I would have been probably pretty lost.
I think that's great that there was an actual active role in allowing you to pursue your entrepreneurial visions. It's not that I wasn't encouraged to, follow my dreams and to do what it was that I wanted.
Not.
It was like an undercurrent, Gabby. And I don't know, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, this is tradition, this is how it is. And nobody ever really spoke of it to me. But it was like an undercurrent that the female had this role and essentially, didn't undermine the male. But nobody ever really said it to me. So that's interesting. I'm wondering if it's a generational thing.
It is, but it also had to do with, for my parents especially, and it could be the immigrant piece.
Oh, yeah.
To them, it wasn't so much about the profession or the job or what it is you did. It was the money. It was really connected to the money and how much of it you could make and how much potential there was for it to make. So, of course, like any good child of an immigrant, right, they want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or, right, some like really crazy upper echelon career. And so even though I was always very enterprising, when I told my parents I was going to be an actor, I mean, my mom cried for 2 weeks straight. Like she wouldn't stop.
And my mother said, "Honey, when are you going to get a real job?"
Exactly. That's what it was. I mean, she was devastated, not because I was following my dream, but because I was going to be poor.
Well, and when I got into the corporate world, right, as I grew up and I got into the corporate world, of course I was confident in my abilities, and I'm going to say I ended up working in fields where there were a lot of men or it was male dominated. And I simply, when I went into my interview, when you either know the salary that they're going to present or you're negotiating a salary, I simply just knew that number. And what I think is interesting is that once you got the job and you're in working, in the company, and all of a sudden you find out that perhaps there are male counterparts that are doing the same job as you, yet making more money. And I think that a lot of this whole maybe gender wage, gender gap is because of you don't know what wages your counterparts are making. So it kind of makes you think, is there an inequality or did I just not know where the negotiations started?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, Lynn makes this point in the article, and I think it's brilliant. She asks very boldly, is it a bias or is it a self-inflicted wage gap? Are we in some way maybe responsible for this? All I can say to that, when it comes to men and women as consumers and buyers, men are more likely to haggle and haggle aggressively.
My father used to do that all the time. I have to say, in stores where there was no haggling. Like in
Dad,
stores where
Dad, we're in Sears. They don't do that here.
Yeah. Oh my God, my dad used to haggle in Sears like you wouldn't believe. Well, if I buy the whole tool chest,
no, Dad, it doesn't work that way. No, Dad, stop, please,
oh
Dad, you're
gosh,
embarrassing me.
So
no,
funny. But that was me. My mother used to walk out of the store, but he always got the deal.
But your mom would walk away, right?
Yeah,
it's like the head in the sand, kind of thing. We have separated ourselves from this process. Yeah. Women get very intimidated by it. They get nervous by it. You see it a lot. Like whenever you travel, especially if you go overseas, a lot of cultures still the bargain, the haggle is very much alive and well. When you're going to purchase something, you start with a lower rate or try to get a lower rate out of someone. Men are like little bulldogs and women just kind of go, oh, okay, and just sort of accept whatever. It's kind of sad.
It's a good thing that we're talking about this. I really believe that, by talking about it really helps us to set our mindset to get what we're worth and understand that it is something that you can be bold about, that you can negotiate, that you can haggle. And like I said, when I was early on, graduated college in my engineering position, right, at the orthopedic firm where I worked with all men, I was like one of two female engineers. I didn't have an idea of the starting point of the salary. So I can't say, was there bias? Perhaps not, because I didn't really have a good idea as to what the number should be anyway until after I started working. So I'm not going to sit back and just whine and say, well, that was unfair. I'm going to say, all right, now I've educated myself on what the baseline should be for this particular job, and now I'm armed and ready to fight for it. And I think that if we as women talk about the potential for is there a wage gap, well, the fact that we're simply talking about it allows us to go and investigate further so that we can find out, well, what is the baseline salary for this particular position? What is the baseline cost that people will pay for this type of service or voiceover, whatever it is? And as long as you're armed with that number in your head, you can then fight for it. If you don't know what the number is, then it's hard to cry, wage gap,
Right.
So
if we don't value the money coming out of our wallet very much, or if we don't put a high priority on it, how can we value what comes into it? I also find it fascinating that women, more than men on average, when we look at statistics, tend to work in jobs that have lower hourly or wage rates, but tips, right? They're gratuitous types. So waitresses and stylists and manicurists, the list goes on and on, right? Hospitality in general. So we're okay with a tip. We're okay with somebody appreciating what we do, right? And being thankful for it. But why don't we simply demand that in the hourly from the onset?
Right? In the first place. Demand it in the first place.
Exactly.
That's a great observation. Just know that you can demand it in the first place. Now, I think maybe, Gabby, there's something to be said about the self-inflicted, now that you've educated yourself, we can start to change things, right? But there's also, I think we should maybe talk a little bit about opportunities. Are you feeling like the opportunities for us to make money in the different voiceover genres are equal, male, female?
No. They're getting better.
Yeah.
They're getting better. They definitely are. There's a lot more opportunity for women in promo. There's obviously a huge demand in video games. But, there are still arenas where we don't play very often. Movie trailers, looking at you.
We can, as women, sit here and say, that's not fair. But in reality, we are driven by a market mentality, right? That feels that, males should do movie trailers or males should do promo. So there is obviously, of course, if we can, rise up and say, yes, give us an opportunity, give us a chance. But it really is driven by the market. And I think a lot of people, tend to forget that it's market driven. So if the market doesn't demand a female voice in a particular genre, they just, it's not there for us to, to take, or it's not there for, the opportunity isn't there for us, and therefore we can't complain about wages that we're not receiving because the market didn't demand it.
I mean, we see this in Hollywood, too. Leading ladies tend to be paid much less than their male counterparts, wasn't it? Scarlett Johansson, who held out a couple of years ago with the whole Avengers franchise and, commanded this crazy, crazy awesome amount of money because she was like, no, I'm not getting paid less than these guys.
Exactly.
Literally, guys.
And that's the start. That's what I think that's what sparks change, is the fact that if you do find out that there is indeed a wage gap, although I think voiceover is a little different, because when I go out and I quote a job, it doesn't matter if I'm female or male or alien. Like I said, I have my rate guide and I have my worth. And so I quote as such. I'm not quoting less because I'm a woman or because I think I deserve less. I'm absolutely quoting what my business guide and what my rate guide specifies for me, which is right for me, which I don't believe is on the low side of things.
I think a little more so than men, women tend to think, well, if I offer a lower rate, I might be more appealing to someone and it'll get me more opportunities. And that has just been disproven time and time and time again.
But I know a few male voiceover artists that will do the same thing to get the job.
Oh, yes.
Right?
I'm not saying that they don't. But I think women will come in at that lower rate. Mind you, I'm the same woman who laughs about the fact that women make up 52% of the planet, and yet we consider ourselves a minority.
Yeah. Well, I think women need to women need to change that mentality.
We have the numbers, ladies. Yeah, we're not at a disadvantage.
We absolutely do. At all costs. We need to stop thinking that we're not worthy of a certain price because of our gender, for gosh sakes.
Oh God, please.
Yeah, no, it's and I.
I'm laughing at the fact that you said that because I'm doing a tally in my head of the maintenance and the money that most women invest in themselves on like a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And you compare that to the average guy and you go, good God, we should be making twice what they do.
Because we need that money.
Come on, the nails, the hair, the makeup, the clothes, it doesn't buy itself. Guys roll out of bed, throw on a shirt, they're good to go.
So Lynn also said something about, because she was on the other side of the glass there, she ignored the lowball quote auditions, which I think is also a fantastic assessment.
Yes.
For all of us to learn that, you know what, if you don't value yourself, what makes you think that someone else is going to value you?
Inside of the article, she talks about it's her client that she's talking to. She's having a conversation with a casting director. And that casting director said just that. If I get 10 quotes for a job and 8 people come in, I don't know, $750, $800, somewhere in a $100 margin of one another, and 2 people are down in the 200s, I'm like, I
was just hiring somebody to do some web design work for me, and they came in low. And I thought to myself,
yeah.
Why?
Like,
that
it's
doesn't
scary.
seem right. And I stayed away because of it.
And then as someone with a job, who's hiring, I start scrutinizing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can they spell?
Yeah.
Or I start looking for the mistakes. So in our case as voice actors, that's what they're going to start being hypercritical because something has to be wrong if someone's charging that little.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's the red flag that goes up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, guys, do yourself a favor. You don't want people to think that of you. Something must be wrong because they're coming in so low.
I want to address one more thing on this just because we should. Let's make sure, Anne, that the issue is not a lack of knowledge, especially when it comes to voiceover, right? There are so many resources. There are so many places for you to get a rough idea of quotes of what averages are. So let's kind of run through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have rate guides out there. We have some amazing rate guides.
GVAA has one. Voiceovers.com, our sponsor, they have their new Decipher algorithm, which is amazing if you guys haven't seen it. We have out of the UK, Gravy for the Brain has theirs. The SAG-AFTRA rate guide, I will always default to that if nothing else. Am I missing anybody?
Well, I think those are the major players,
Those are
guys.
the majors, yeah.
And of course your own rate guide, which can be based off of that. Yeah, there's no excuse to not be educated because we've got great resources out there. And that's where all of us, whether you are been in the business for 10, 20, 30 years or just your first year, you should be consulting the rate guides. And that is going to give you your benchmark for getting a fair rate, no matter the gender.
Again, we want to thank John for bringing this to our attention, John Florian at VoiceOverXtra. Guys, we want you to continue the conversation, both with us and with VoiceOverXtra.com. Go to their website, read the article, please comment, let us know what you think. Drop us a comment, too, at thebosses@voboss.com. We'd love to get some input and some feedback from women who have experienced some of this firsthand.
And I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL, that can bring together the women and all genders to talk about rates and discussion and all of us.
All together.
So yes, IPDTL, you too can do your job like a boss. Find out more at IPDTL.com.
And I mentioned them earlier, voiceovers.com. Please go check them out, guys. Get yourself primed, prepped, and ready to be part of their big launch. They have so many things in the works behind the scenes right now. I promise you there's a ton going on in the back end of that website, and they are working their butts off right now. So we want to make sure that you're a part of that for when it actually officially rolls out.
Have a great week, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your hosts Ann Ganguzza and Gabby Nistico. All rights reserved. Ann Ganguzza voice talent in association with 3 Moon Media. Redistribution with permission. Coast to coast connectivity via IPDTL.